Hi everybody, so I'm the last presenter today, then we're going to have a little chat between ourselves. I'm talking about this rather ugly subject matter, governance, misspelt deliberately I have to say. It's one of those topics which I talk a lot about actually, and a lot of people speak of it, but very few people understand it. Paul mentioned something which caught my attention, and I made some notes as he was talking. He talked about culture. He talked about better governance, and I asked myself, well, who's going to take responsibility for that? Is it going to be IT? Is it going to be procurement? Is it going to be finance? Compliance team? Not every business has a compliance team. So really knotty subject, this one. And of course, ultimate responsibility for this anyway lies with the board of directors. And we know always how IT savvy those guys are. Now, if you want a career and you're smart, tech savvy, aspirational to be a non-executive director, there's bags of opportunity out there right now. I participated in Harvey Nash's annual survey where they look at the boards and effectiveness of our boards and look at their skills and their skills deficits. And one of the things that's showing up consistently is a deficit of skill around IT. So digital non-executive directors are going to be very high in demand in the next 5 years. If you fancy that as a career aspiration, go for it. The other thing I want to mention about governance is governance tends to arise as a conversation topic when something's gone wrong. And lots of things go wrong in this world. And just to mention a few, Carillion, VW, Save the Children, Oxfam, I work in the charity sector a lot with charities assisting them with their governance. It causes financial and reputational damage. And then the question comes when something goes wrong, why did that happen? And then they tie it back to something. What they generally tie it back to is governance. Governance is not well understood. So let's move on. Here's a couple of examples of failure of governance in big companies associated with their use of technology. If you were inconvenienced by British Airways when their systems went down, this is a statement that was made in an annual report actually, which looked at the risks that they faced as a business and how they were mitigating their risks, which is exactly what governance does. It looks at the risks in a business and looks at the mitigation of those risks that affect business continuity. Unfortunately for them, not only did it cause them financial harm, reputational harm, and that is still perhaps lasting today, I know, for some customers of that business. If you look at TSB, and this has been recent news, they've had some problems. If you're a TSB customer, you know them only too well. That's the compensation and the repair bill today, and by that figure will inflate substantially. It forced the company into a quarterly loss. The CEO stood down, and they were rebuked by the Bank of England governor and the select committee. Here's the thing, 10 years ago, a CEO would never be asked to comment on IT. 5 years ago, maybe. Today, the CEO has got to be technology-wise. That does not mean to say that he understands and can explain the use of Agile or DevOps in the business, but he must understand how technology is linked to the fulfillment of the business's business strategy. This is new for them, and many of them struggle. I was just thinking about Dido Harding when she was on TV and the news about TalkTalk's hack was breaking, and it was big news at that time, and how she fluffed her lines badly, yes? And then you look at what the damage to the company was, never mind the fine that the ICO, the regulator, enforced there, which is £400,000. Maximum fine at the time under law was £500,000. I translated that into what the fine would have been were GDPR prevailing at the time of that incident, and it would have wiped out their EBITDA for the whole year. This is big. There are big risks around here if you get your governance wrong. Now I'm going to refer now to a survey which we run annually at Cloud Industry Forum. We're now in our 8th year, by the way, doing this. Our first survey, the top 3 issues of customers when thinking about the use of cloud in their organizations were security. You're going to put your data in the cloud? You must be dopey. Don't do it. Yeah. Portability. So what if my cloud service provider fouls up, messes up? where do I go next? I mean, will I be able to take my data and next day move it to a new provider? Will they assist me? What if they go out of business? And even if the administrator is minded to assist me, will the cost be prohibitive? Those were concerns for those people we surveyed at the time. And the other one was trust. Now, trust is very hard to put your finger on. Yeah. Let's wind forward to today. So now, 8 years later, the most recent survey, you can download this off CIF's website. We're talking about digital transformation, so the security question largely has got away. I'm going to mention it in a minute. It's a different context to that security question. The changing role of IT, and I wrote a book to talk about this, cloud operating models. Artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, all highly topical. 8 years ago weren't mentioned. Of course, the cloud is the building block, the foundation for the enablement of many of these new types of services which we're interested in. Security, the conversation has changed from one of don't be a dope and put your data in the cloud, to now it's more about assurance. And this is about third-party validation of a cloud service provider's services. You may say you do a good job. You may articulate that in your documents, in your words. But how is it validated? So let's look at some of the ways in which this is going to be third-party accredited in the future. So, I don't think many people, when they think about a cloud service provider, do the same level of due diligence as they would a supplier in their supply chain. So I ask the question, why not? Really, I don't understand it. This is a critical resource to your company. Yes. Why aren't you, and a lot of countries hadn't thought about that, don't know how to do it, somebody else's responsibilities, which is where I started out. Does procurement do it? Does finance do it? Does IT do it? Who does it? Yes, do you do it yourself or do you outsource that responsibility? Do you just rely on a big name? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Yeah? A lot of those big names are just providing vanilla services, the same for everybody. They don't negotiate on their terms and conditions. They don't. You can obviously configure the services to suit your need, but they might not specialise if you have a specialist business. And one, as someone said to me, do I want to be a small fish in a big pond, or sorry, bigger fish in a small pond? And this is from a customer's perspective in terms of what kind of service am I going to receive if I'm a small fish in a very big pond and I need help? Yeah. And of course the stakes were upped with GDPR, 25th of May 2018 last year, and we had to learn some new language. All of a sudden we had to figure out if we were a data controller, data processor, a sub-data controller, a sub-data processor. This has been a real challenge for customers working with their cloud service providers to get acknowledgement and get that acknowledgement in writing, most importantly. A legal understanding of what the responsibilities are. Why is that? Because you're jointly and severally liable under GDPR. And if anything goes wrong, the injured party can still come after you. You have, of course, the opportunity to go after the party that injured you later, but all this stuff costs money and time, and that might just put you out of business. Next up is the, and you may know about this, is the EU regulation for the free movement of non-personal data. Comes into force next month. Did you know about this? Well, why is this being done? Well, the EU want to allow non-personal data to be able to freely move around Europe. Let's see. So what is non-personal data? Oh, the type of data that machines output. Yes, it's anonymous, essentially. It's just a machine sending out something about its condition, let's say. Well, that is coming into force next month, and that will absolutely help IoT, certainly, AI possibly. And what's next? More regulation around big data and algorithms? We don't know, but it's coming. What I'm seeing is that more and more regulation is coming about around the tech industry, and the UK may be the first to regulate some of the tech giants like Facebook and Google. Who knows? It's threatened, but it all points to growing attention and scrutiny of governance in this sector we work in. So, a very simple check I did. When I was invited to this meeting, I thought, okay, I'll just do my own bit of due diligence. Cyber security is a board level agenda now, simply because if you get it wrong, the consequences are pretty dreadful, to be honest with you. So I thought I'll just check out Digital Craftsman to see where they stand in terms of a public credential for... And there you have it. They are Cyber Essentials Plus. Well done to you. You're doing the right thing. Okay, let's stop there. Thank you very much.
I sat back with a confident smile